When Don Lemon asked me that, I was in shock. That was not what I was there to talk about. My interest, Emma, and for everybody, is I'm just always interested in learning the whole story, learning the whole truth. So I'd like people actually to look up and be in contact with Rashid Walters. Rashid Walters reached out to me. He is a fine black historian. He writes for the Boston Herald, and he reached out to me to say, Hillary, you're absolutely right, and thank you for bringing light to an issue that not many people even know about or hear about today. He talked to me about somebody that I don't think many people have ever heard about, Manu Musa. Who was Manu Musa? He was the richest man in all of history. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, kind of pale in comparison. Who was he? He was an African who took 12,000 of his own slaves with him to the New World. He traded in gold, salt, and ivory, but mostly from slavery. Exactly what my point was. I just knew about it. And when he asked about that, I wanted to bring light to the root of the story. But I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a historian. I just wanted to answer the big picture. And so everybody looks to the very big picture.
Sure. You say you weren't anticipating that sort of direction of questioning. Let me ask you, though, about why you were talking about the royal family. Of course, it had to do with the Queen's passing and the coverage, the mourning time period in the UK following her death. Because you've been there and you've been speaking to people who have attended the funeral, had conversations about reparations or abolishing this monarchy, had those come up? Is there any interest there at all?
Well, I can't say that I individually had the conversations. I've just seen a lot of conversations, heard a lot of conversations. No, now I don't know everybody. Nobody does. What I wanted to focus on, Emma, was exactly to your question, the magnificent mosaic of mankind that showed up to Q, an English line. They were calling it the Elizabeth line. And they were, to your question, they were people of all races, all religions, men in turbans, ladies in saris. There were people doing the cross in front of the coffin, Catholic people. There were people of all races who were interviewed with, yes, accents that were from the Caribbean, from Africa. Why did they go? I personally know a black minister in northern England, in Birmingham, who went with his entire church. They went, not one person of color, none of my friends here, none of the people I've seen interviewed, no. They talked about, and he talks about also, he talks about the Commonwealth scholarship he went to London to study with and all that the Commonwealth did for him. And a misconception also in this whole discussion is when the Queen ascended to the throne, Emma, for our audience, there were only 8 nations that were members of the Commonwealth. She built it to 56. How did she build it? These are countries that wanted to be part of the Commonwealth, exactly as this young man from Africa had a scholarship from the Commonwealth Trust to go to study architecture in the UK. The Commonwealth does so much good, and countries choose to be part of it. Common values, common trading, and wanting to be. And any that don't want to, they are free to leave. There are many countries right now, Emma, applying to be part of the Commonwealth, and they're not talking about reparations.
Adding a little bit of perspective there to the conversation. What we played wasn't even the best part. I just want to play this final moment from the interview. Let's listen.
And maybe, I don't know, the descendants of those families where they died in the high seas trying to stop the slavery, that those families should receive something too, I think, at the same time.
It's an interesting discussion, Hillary. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Almost a little stunned. Definitely didn't appear to be anticipating that reaction. Hillary, has CNN reached out for any follow-up interviews?
No, they haven't. I just tell you who has reached out to me, though. A lot of naval men, because their families and their ancestors were in the Navy. They were part of what I was answering there was the question. There were 2,000 British members of the British Navy died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. And that's what I was talking about. And no, they haven't asked me. And I actually, this is not my lane. I'd like people to actually talk to Rashid Walters and others that are experts on this.
Well, before we let you go, could we ask you about golf and the LIV Golf Tournament?